Hey everybody! Today I'm going to show you how to knit a flat panel with eyelash yarn on a circular knitting machine. I'm using this for this tutorial, but don't worry if you have another brand, whether you're working with an Addi, a Centro, or even one of the smaller toy knitting machines. The basic mechanism is the same. So eyelash yarn is a fantastic beginner's yarn. It creates a nice wide panel. On my 22 pin machine, I get a 8.5-inch wide panel, which is perfect for making bags and even laptop cases. For comparison, with an 8-ply milk cotton yarn, I will only get a 5-inch wide panel. So another plus is that this yarn doesn't require waste yarn to start the project. The fur on the yarn will camouflage any uneven tension that we get when we begin our knitting. So to begin, switch to the flat panel mode. What this does inside the machine is it lowers the stopper. And then when we crank, this little bar on the ring will bump into the stopper and stop. So we will have to crank backwards to knit the next row, and it will get stopped on the other side. So this is how the back and forth motion is created. So I'm going to move the pins to the cast on position. So crank backwards until it stops. Then we move forward 3 pins. In the flat panel mode, these 3 pins will not be knitted. So this is the space that the yarn needs to do a U-turn and create the sides. Drop the yarn tail into the center and wrap in front of the first pin, behind the second, and continue this way until you reach the end. And that's a total of 19 pins. So I do not wrap the yarn around the 3 U-turn pins. Now we place the yarn into the feeder. If your machine has some kind of tensioner, use it. It is still possible to knit flat panel without one. I will show you in a moment. On my machine, I have a tension wire. So I pick up the yarn in between these 2 loops and add it onto the wire. What it does is it keeps the yarn tight when it is feeding the yarn to the pin. Now I crank so it moves past the 3 U-turn pins and go back until it stops. And just repeat this back and forth, cranking until you get the length that you want. I'm going to show you how to knit without the tension option. When you get to the sides, you just pull the yarn and keep it tight. The yarn will kind of slack when you move back from the 3 empty pins. So remember to pull the yarn here, and this will help the loop from falling off the pin. To add new yarn, take the working yarn off the feeder. Place the new yarn's tail next to the old one. Insert it into the feeder and tensioner and continue on. When a row is knitted, each pin is holding 2 loops of yarn. If you wash this pin here, as it nears the feeder, it pushes 1 loop over to knit. Then it picks up a new loop as it passes the feeder. So this is good to know when we are casting off in the next step. So I remove the yarn and thread the yarn tail to a needle. And the yarn tail's length should be twice the length of your knitted panel. Slowly crank until it passes the feeder so that it knits 1 loop. Now there's 1 loop left on this pin. Thread the needle through it because this loop can easily fall off. I like to pick them up as I crank. With eyelash yarn, once it falls off, it kind of disappears into the knit, and you don't want that because the whole column may unravel. Here is the knitted flat panel. The sides looks fine. If you have added new yarn, just thread the tail through to the messy side and tie a knot. So I'm going to turn this into a donut, and this is how you knit a flat panel. I hope you enjoy it, and see you next time. Bye bye.